I feel bad for interrupting that. I just want to keep
So
that
do
going.
I'm not gonna lie. There's 3 albums of Chicago Stadium organ music on Spotify, and this week I listened to all 3.
Yep.
It was glorious.
Great stuff. That organ music means it's time for another edition of the Second Balcony. I'm Greg Boyson, the Blackhawks site expert over for Fansided, joined by my pal Frank Nova, who I look forward to every time we get together on what his little name will be this week. So, but we before we get into the nuts and bolts and the meat and potatoes of today's second episode, I want to thank everybody who checked out the first episode. Over 1,200 views on YouTube, nearly 200 subscribers already. So thank you guys and girls for checking it out and the support, and tell your friends. If this is your first time here, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us if you're listening on a podcast app. Give us those 5-star reviews. Hit the like button. All that stuff just helps our visibility and help grow the brand. And
And
we
tell the people you
that.
don't like, we're not proud.
Right. I mean, as I said in the first episode, leave a 5-star review. You can MF us to the high heavens, but as long as you give us 5 stars, say what you want. We will not get you fired from your job. You can, as long as you give us 5 stars, free speech still holds true here on the Second Balcony.
Yeah, 4 stars and you're on thin ice.
Yes, 3 stars, we call your boss. All right, speaking of bosses, the Blackhawks boss, Kyle Davidson, last night, Wednesday night, got done his final piece of business for the summer, just in the nick of time, signing Wyatt Kaiser to a 2-year, $3.4 million total contract. Not a bad chunk of change for young Mr. Kaiser. I wish I can go back to being 23 and having that kind of a bank account. That would be fun. I'll take that kind of bank account at 46. But, I'm not surprised it got done. There was really never a sense that Kaiser was going to hold out, because that would have just been that would have caused a lot more harm than good, because the Blackhawks have a ton of young defensemen in camp. They just brought in Matt Grzelcyk on a PTO. They would have been like, okay, stay out as long as you want, dude. We're not worried. But what were your thoughts on the deal, and who does that benefit the most?
Well, clearly it benefits Kaiser the most. But other than that, Artem Lezhinov, because he gets a full camp with Kaiser on his left. And Grzelcyk is a guy who, he'll might still make the team just because he can provide some offense. He could be a third pair guy, and that gives them a chance to, if they feel like Korchinski's not NHL ready yet. There's no point this year in rushing him. He's still only 21. But the whole thing with Kaiser, it didn't make sense that he was holding out as long as he was, just because it wasn't like he had anywhere else to go. Because of his age and service time, he couldn't go to arbitration. He couldn't sign an offer sheet. It was either the Hawks or stay home. And the Hawks had other options. So, it waited as long as it did. It didn't cause anybody any harm. He's in camp now, and pretty much the top 5 defensemen are set, which is unusual for a team that does not have particularly great expectations to have that many spots set on defense at the start of camp.
For sure. I mean, there's still, and another reason for the Grzelcyk PTO is, who the days of expecting Connor Murphy to play 70 to 82 games are long gone. Like, he's going to miss some time. If he plays 60 games this year, that's a W. So you're going to need somebody else. I mean, they're not the same player. You can't just swap one out for the other and say it's the same thing, but you need another veteran presence on that back end. Got nervous when we were there for rookie camp, and we would go to the other rink at the Fifth Third Arena, and they were having the veterans captain skate, and Jared Tenorti's out there in his Grand Rapids Griffins gear, and they're like, no, let's not again. So yeah, there's no harm in bringing him in for a tryout. You're doing him a solid because he's trying out for all 32 teams, not just the Blackhawks.
Yes.
Any team can sign him at any moment. So when you're a GM, the GM that's going to be very active here over these next couple of years, doing solids for veterans and their agents, they don't forget things like that down the road. So that's another reason that's a good thing to do.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing too, is when you bring a guy like that into camp, it's not just about the player, it's about, we don't know who. I'm not going to go on Puckpedia while we're talking and look up his agent, who his agent's roster of players are, but that might enter into it.
No, I looked at, I can't remember the name, but I did look it up just to be, and he has a pretty deep, I think he has 17 NHL players currently under contract, his agent. So, and agents talk,
Oh yeah.
So it's a good thing. There's no downside to this. He's not here to steal a young player's job. He's not here to block anybody. If the young kids are ready, they're going to play. That's been made abundantly clear. And Kaiser's one of them. And I think this was a good deal for him. The 2 years is about right. I don't think there was any way they were going to go beyond that. It gets him, he'll still be a restricted free agent next time around. I believe he'll at least be arbitration eligible on his next contract because he'll have, the service time to do it. I think that's how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
arbitration eligible and able to sign a offer sheet.
Yeah. So, he'll have more leverage next time around, but it gives him 2 years to figure out. This team's going to look completely different in 2 years. The defensive core is going to look completely different in 2 years. We don't know what Wyatt Kaiser is. We don't know what Sam Rinzel is, or Artie Levshinoff, Del Mastro, Allen, all these guys. We have a educated guess on what they're going to become, but 2 years from now, who knows? So it's a good deal for both sides. And Kaiser was there the whole time during rookie camp. Skating with his Blackhawk teammates.
The name that keeps falling through the cracks is Crevier. Crevier is on a 2-year one-way deal. He's a Blackhawk, like it or not.
He's the ideal seventh defenseman then. He to me, he's the guy that you keep up because you're not going to want to keep Kevin Korchinski here if he's not ready to play, and you don't want to keep him here and have him be sitting in the press box every night.
No,
you'd rather have him play. You'd rather have him play big minutes in Rockford. So if Crevier is the seventh guy and he only plays 1 out of every 4 games, okay.
Yeah, that's about where he lands. He's maybe, if his game improves a little bit, his skating improves a little bit, maybe he can be a third pair somewhere. It won't be in Chicago.
Right. But he's definitely a guy you can keep up here in Chicago and scratch 3 out of 4 games, and nobody's going to be beaten. There's not going to be a free Crevier hashtag on Twitter. People aren't going to be mad. Oh, you're ruining the development of Louis Crevier. No, that's not going to happen. So he's the ideal 7th defenseman for this team. And a guy that still has enough upside that, hey, maybe something happens down the road. But so the defensive side is pretty set. You mentioned, they pretty much have 5 guys locked in. Murphy, Vlasic, those are definitely your for sure. Rinzel's making this team. It certainly sounds like Levshinoff will start the season in the AHL, and there's no reason why not. You have Kaiser, so it's not going to be what Korchinski can do. And then you have Allen and Del Mastro, who, are both solid defensive defensemen. And I think, if I had to choose between the two, I think I'd slightly give the nod to Del Mastro because he's a better skater. and has a little bit of offensive upside that like he showed a little bit last year and that run at the end of the season.
The thing I like with Del Mastro is when he gets the puck in the defensive zone, he stays calm. He doesn't get jittery and doesn't panic and flip the puck over the glass or anything like that. He's really he keeps his pulse low and gets the puck out of the zone without a whole lot of. You're not worried about it. You're not worried that he's going to get stripped. You're not worried he's going to do something dumb. He will get the puck. He will get it out.
Yeah, I mean that's what you want out of that position is some poise. Not folding under pressure, and we see that a lot with younger players. We see it from veteran players, but yeah, everything is calm, and I think he has a slightly more upside than Allen, and I'm not knocking Nolan Allen. I like Nolan Allen a lot, but
I like Nolan Allen a lot too. It's funny because I always, in my brain, I always go back to other Blackhawks that I remember. And Nolan Allen to me could be Jordan Henry before Jordan Henry blew his knee out.
Right.
Where he's good skater, good speed, stay-at-home defenseman. But he's got a little bit more of a physical game than Henry had.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to take the body out there.
For sure. It's just a numbers game at this point. It's a good thing to have, too many defensemen. That's not a bad thing at all. Just a quick look.
I would be very surprised if between now and opening night there's not a trade.
Well, you definitely have that ability. You deal from a position of strength, and the Blackhawks have a lot of good young defensemen. And then, you got to figure, you look at next season, this summer, the draft, Blackhawks are probably going to have another top 5, top 6 pick. Everybody's focused on Gavin McKenna at number 1, but after that, the next 3 or 4 best prospects are defensemen. So there's a good chance they take another highly touted, high-rated top 5 defenseman next year, because they've done the forwards the last couple of years. All 3 first-round picks this year were bigger forwards, 2 out of the 3 last year. So 5 out of your last 6, well, actually 7 of your last 8 first-round picks have been forwards. So they may go back to defensemen. So that adds another top prospect to the way. And that's how you do it. You create waves. You get 4 or 5 good young defensemen coming in. You give them 2-3 years to sort it out, and then you have 2 more come in after that. That's how you keep this thing going once it gets started. Just for the record, today, first day of Blackhawks training camp, Alex Vlasic was paired with Connor Murphy. Ethan Del Mastro was paired with Sam Renzel. And then you had Levshunov and Kaiser. They were in different groups. Those first 4 were in the first group, and then Kaiser and Levshunov were in the second group. So not saying that's what they're looking at, but it's a good indicator on what they like with who.
Well, Levshunov and Kaiser were really good at the end of last season, so I don't see any reason to split those 2 guys up. And everything else is going to be a little mix and match. I don't see Connor Murphy logging the minutes that Alex Vlasic's going to log.
No, I definitely can see that being Sam Renzel and Alex Vlasic for the long haul. That's a hell of a defensive pairing right there. A couple of redwoods that can skate. That's the ideal right there. Or even, if you could get to a point, a Korchinski and a Vlasic together long term would be good too. But Korchinski's the wild card, I think, in this training camp, and Kyle Davison, who spoke today, talked about him and said, listen, if he's got to start the season in Rockford because he's not ready, it's not the organization doesn't consider that a step backwards or a failure. He's just not ready. And, he's still 21. And he mentioned Duncan Keith was 22 when he became a full-time NHLer. And that was after 2 full seasons in the AHL. And those of us who were A, old enough, and B, actually paying attention during those, 06, 07, 07, 08 seasons, Duncan Keith's first couple seasons were not pretty.
Well, the one thing is you could see he could skate.
Right.
You could see that, but yeah, a lot of times he was out there like his hair was on fire.
Well, I mean, for the first couple years of his career, he had a nickname of Drunken Keith because it looked like he had thrown back a few pops before taking the ice, and then all of a sudden it clicked, and we got the first ballot Hall of Fame, one of the greatest to ever do it here in this city. It didn't look like that. He didn't just come out of the packaging and the Norris Trophy winner in 2010. It took a lot of work to get that way. So yeah, if Kevin Korchinski's got
back then, if you had said one of the young defensemen is going to be a Hall of Famer, I would have said Seabrook.
Yeah. So there's still a long way to go.
Not that Seabrook was bad. Seabrook is, if there's a Hall of Good, then Seabrook's in. He just, doesn't have the 2 Norris trophies and all the other accolades.
I think Seabrook's the guy who maybe eventually gets in. Veterans committee type of thing, 15, 20 years from now.
I don't know. I'm still waiting on Steve Larmer.
Well, I'm preaching to the choir, my friend. Yes, but I think he's a guy that maybe years from now, after Taves and Kane and Host is already there and Keith is already there, they may be like, well, we got to let him go in there with the rest of his buddies. I mean, he was an important part. I mean,
oh yeah,
Jonathan Taves was the captain of that team, but everybody who was in that locker room would tell you it was Brent Seabrook who was the leader.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how the defensemen are shaping up, and today was a interesting day, first day of training camp, and new head coach Jeff Blashill definitely setting a tone. Day one, right out of camp. This was a long, tough day for these guys. Each session, they had 2 full sessions of practice. Each session was about 2 hours, so each group got about 2 hours of practice, and it was fast-paced, it was intense, it was high tempo. It was about 8 minutes into the first practice, and he's already screaming F-bombs. And if somebody messed up the drill, missed the pass, they had to skate between the boards and then get back in line. Like it was, and everything was move, let's go. It was good. I mean, of course, all the players afterwards said they loved it. Some of them didn't look like they loved it. A lot of hands on knees towards the end, but I mean, that's a way to do it. You come in and you say, "Hey, this is how we're going to do things here." It was a very efficient practice. There was not a lot of downtime. There was not a lot of guys milling around. It was drill, and obviously they're not all going to be like that during training camp. But I thought it was a really good way to get things started.
And the thing with the Blackhawks this year is they're not going to be a really good team. But the one thing that they can do, and they can certainly do that, is skate. So with Blashill having these guys out there skate, this is the one thing that can make them a real headache to play against, especially when the season's dragging on and all these 22-year-old legs are still out there pumping pistons after 45 or 50 minutes, and they can just wear teams down.
Yeah, I think that's the game plan. I mean, Blashill said that his very first press conference, like, this team is fast, and I'm going to use that. He's going to put his team in a position to succeed, and you got to use that speed as a weapon. They're going to get a lot of chances this year with that speed. Now, finishing them is another story, but I think Blashill is smart enough to know what to do, and I did a lot of research and breaking down what some of the things he did in Detroit over the summer. Jack Hand does a great book every year where he basically breaks down what every team does, all their systems, all their plays, their entries, and breaks them down in diagrams. You can get it usually comes out around December. It's amazing. I get it every year. You get it sent to you in a PDF file, and it makes me seem way smarter than I really am. But, I went back to 2022, 2021 and looked at the Blashill, and, his zone entries are all about speed through the neutral zone. Get the puck through quickly. And, he had Dylan Larkin his last year there, speed up the middle. And when he used rookie defenseman Mo Seider and his skating to get the puck through so he's got those horses here. He can do that exact same thing. And he mentioned Andrei Burakovsky, one of the new guys that come in that when he's at his best, he gets the puck through the neutral zone quickly. So that's why it certainly looks like he's starting on the Connor Bedard line at Ryan Donato, so those guys can get the puck in. If Burakovsky can get it in through the neutral zone, then Bedard can then get into the soft spots of the ice. It takes a lot of pressure off of him. So I think, using the speed is what is going to get this team trending in a better direction.
Now, did you see any difference in Bedard's skating? Because I know that was his focus all summer long.
It's kind of tough to really judge on when they're just doing, basic drills, but he definitely, had a little more oomph to him. It seemed that like he was getting, at the start of the drills, his first step was quicker. I had a scout years ago tell me, a scout for the Montreal Canadiens sitting next to him at an AHL game saying, you could be the fastest player in the world, but do you have any energy left when you get to top speed? Do you use all your energy to get to top speed? Because then if you are, you're dead. But so it definitely looked like his first step was a little bit quicker today, and that would be huge. Bedard doesn't have to be the fastest guy on the ice. I think he's smart enough to where he just knows where to be, and he's just got to beat that guy to that spot, and then it's over. Puck's in the back of the net. But he spoke after practice. Of course, we all flocked right to him. Poor Landon Slaggert. I joked with him as he's trying to get his gear off, and he's right next to Bedard's stall. I was like, "Did you draw the shortest straw? Did you lose the bet that you have to take this one?" He's like, "Yeah, this kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Hey, maybe one day we'll all crowd you and we'll make Connor feel bad."
I'll say Slager's a hell of a skater.
He's definitely, he's part of that team speed.
Shot out of a cannon.
Yeah, and he's a guy that needs to have a big camp. There's some guys out there that which each draft class, it gets harder and harder for them to be envisioned into the long term. Slaggert's one of those guys. I think he's a guy that has to kind of reinvent himself this year. Bring something like, we know you're fast. You can skate anybody out of the building. You've got some size. You're not afraid to mix it up when you need to. You've got that, award-winning smile. But what are you going to bring that's going to separate yourself from everybody else, that's going to keep you here? Almost like, a Mackenzie Entwistle kind of figured out like, hey, I got to be a little bit more of a pest if I want to stick around.
Yeah.
And he changed his game a little bit. So he might have to try and do something like that, because just skating fast,
right,
it's not going to keep you on the NHL roster anymore. Last year, yes. Now, no. You got to be able to skate fast and do something else.
Yeah, going back again to old school Blackhawks, he always reminds me a little bit of Jake Dowell, where Jake finally got to the point where, he kind of made himself into a fourth line energy guy.
Yeah.
And he was able to stick around for a couple of years like that.
Yeah. And go ahead.
I was going to say, and that's what I think Slaggert needs to do. He's never got to be a goal scorer. He's got to be a guy who can, skate on the fourth line, give you some energy, pin the other team's first line in deep, and, be effective on the kill.
Yeah, for sure. And I asked Blashill today during his press conference about, I asked Kyle Davidson too, with all these young players in camp and only a limited amount of spots available, what are you looking for to have one of these guys separate themselves from the rest of the group? And Blashill mentioned that, like, it's the young guy's ability to accept a new role or a different role. All these guys get to this level by being the best player on their AAA team, their junior team, their college team. They're all first line guys there. They're all studs.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only top six positions on each team. So you're not everybody's going to get to play that spot. So the faster some of those guys figure out I have to change what I do, the better it is for their success. The guys that don't get that are the guys that, are Brendan Peary and Dylan Secura.
Yeah. Hey, Peary had that one huge year in Florida where, what did he do? Banged in like 18 power play goals or something like that.
Was that the year he had, like 25 goals and 2 assists?
Yeah. He had 25 goals and like just a couple right even strength.
Yeah.
He was just one-timing it on the power play.
Hey, it's a good trick. It's a good trick.
Goals are goals.
Hey, Alex Ovechkin has scored the most goals in NHL history by doing that a lot.
Yeah.
So it's a good gig. Alex DeBrincat wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for setting up in the left circle and cranking one out every once in a while.
Yeah.
So Slaggert's a guy, and another guy I'm watching because I need to see. He's got to make a big step this year is Colton Dach. What exactly are you bringing to this team?
Yeah.
I like Colton Dach. He's a physical player when he's there. The injuries, the Dach brother curse, it's a real thing. Got to stay healthy first, but he's a guy that can bring that agitation. He was doing it today in practice. There was a point in the second session where he was mixing it up with Levshinov, and Levshinov kind of at the whistle flicked at his stick, and his stick went flying down the ice, and Dach was chirping at him, says, "Hey, if you want to go, we can go." And Levshinov just kind of like just smiled and was like, "Whatever, man." And then as soon as the next drill came, he slashed him on the kneecap and checked him into the boards. And it was just like, I don't know if fighting a guy that's had as much bad luck with injuries as Colton Dach shouldn't be trying to fight teammates in practice.
No, and especially not a number 2 overall pick.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, but that's the type of day it was, though, for the first day. There was a lot of guys going hard. There were a lot of guys getting hit into the boards and guys getting knocked on their ass. It was refreshing to see. There was a point early in the practice. They do the drill where they set the nets at the opposing face-off dots, so you're playing within the zone.
Right.
And first round pick, or not first round pick, but 2025 draft pick Ashton Cumby, the big, large, physical defender, had the puck along the boards, and Gavin Hayes skated at him full on and just bounced off. It's like, well, he learned his lesson pretty quick. That's not a guy you need to be taking full speed run ats because you're going to lose.
Yeah. Going back to our good friend Dustin Brown, one of my favorite memories was the time Dustin Brown took a full speed run at Marian Hossa and bounced off him like Hossa was a trampoline.
Yeah, and then Hossa laughed at him. That was stuff of legend. Oh yeah, it's much cooler when Marian Hossa does it.
Oh yeah, everything's cooler when Marian Hossa.
Absolutely. So yeah, what do you think? First day of camp, a lot of excitement. What do you think? We should be looking forward to or focusing on for the remainder of the preseason here.
Well, it's funny. One thing that I think I mentioned to you in a text is the Blackhawks leadership group. So Foligno was Foligno's your captain. Connor Murphy's one of your assistants. Dickinson was an assistant for a while last year. And I think both Kyle Davidson and Jeff Blashill are going to be looking at some of these younger guys to see, okay, which of these guys can be our leaders going forward? Which of these guys is going to kind of be a take charge guy? And, I could see Rinzel and Frank Nazar being those types of guys off the bat. Connor Bedard, he's the face of the franchise. As you know, he's the guy whose locker everybody goes to. So he's going to be your captain at some point. But, who are the other guys going to be? And I think you're going to start to see some of that kind of manifest itself. It'll start in camp. It'll go throughout the season. But I think that's something to kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a little bit of that last year at the end of the year. After Seth Jones and Taylor Hall were gone and some of these younger guys started getting a little more confidence in the room, you could tell that the mood had shifted and it was, completely different than it was to start the year. And that's carried over into this year. Bedard is, I think it's a foregone conclusion. He's going to be a captain of this team for a long time. You mentioned Sam Rinzel. That's, he's a lead by example kind of guy. Frank Nazar is, he's a leader. He's a guy that just commands attention. And another guy I think that's going to be a future letter wearer for this team for a long time is Alex Vlasic. He's definitely got that leadership. He's got that Brent Seabrook type leadership we were talking about, where, if there's a guy that needs to get in somebody's face in a penalty box or starts yelling in between periods, he's going to get the attention. Won't do it a lot, which is better, because when it does happen, you get a guy that yells and screams every game, people are going to eventually tune you out. But when it only happens when it needs to happen, that's when guys say, okay, I need to figure this out.
Yeah. So, that's one thing you'll start to see a little bit in camp, but like I said, you'll see it more as the season progresses. We'll all see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exciting. That's a good thing. Like that's what we've been waiting for. I think this is why this is kind of a season that Blackhawk fans are looking forward to, because, since Kyle Davidson took over in 2022, it's just been like, okay, we got to tear it down. We're playing for high draft picks. There's this guy in juniors who's lighting it up. There's this guy in Europe lighting it up. But those are just highlights we see. But now these stats we've been reading for 2-3 years are actual living, breathing guys who are wearing Blackhawk uniforms, and we're starting to see results. This isn't a playoff team.
The house isn't built yet, but you can see what it's going to start looking like.
Right, and that's exciting. This is what you went through, those just absolute dumpster fire seasons, to start seeing some the vines are starting to bear fruit. It's not ripe yet, but you could see it coming, and it looks really good. And I can't wait for it to, be able to be picked and enjoyed. We're getting closer to that. It's still a little ways away, but it's starting to feel like that vision is starting to come to fruition, and that's exciting.
And it's not done yet. Like I said last week, we're probably looking at another 3 first-round picks in this coming year's draft.
For sure. And probably the following year. They got 2 for 2026 too. There's it's going to come in waves. This is just the first wave of prospects performing at the NHL level, because we still have another wave to come. Boisvert and Frundell, and then after that it's Mason West and whoever the heck they pick this year. And you have all these other, Vanacker is another year away, and AJ Spellacy, and speaking of those guys, Kyle Davidson was asked this morning about, hey, could a guy like AJ Spellacy play in the AHL? There was talk. In the new CBA, CHL players, each team can have one 19-year-old CHL player loaned to the AHL now. Before, any CHL player under 20 could not play in the AHL, NHL, or juniors. But the new CBA has a revision to where each team can have one 19-year-old player play in the AHL. There were reports earlier the offseason that might be one of the revisions that get fast-tracked to this season. Kyle Davidson said that's not going to be an option this year. That's a good source to me. I trust a guy that it actually affects his job than, a Frank Saravalli tweeting it. So it doesn't seem like that's going to be an option. So, Spellacy, who's actually going to be out for about a week or so, he suffered a shoulder injury at the Kerbers. Another prospect getting hurt in a game against Wild prospects. I mean, we need to put an end to this nonsense. But so he'll be back in a few days. But Vanacker was another guy that you thought maybe, but it looks like both of them are going to go back to Ontario this fall.
Yeah, which is fine. But,
yeah.
I mean, it would have been great to have. I mean, it'd be great to have either or both of those guys in the AHL, just because, you want them playing against men.
Yeah.
But, Vanacker last year didn't get a full season in the Ontario League playing with Brantford. So it'd be nice to see him get a full season, see what he can do. I'm not going to look for a Lardis type season out of him because that's not his game.
No.
But I think we're going to look for him to, be an effective player, and he's got to be a first line winger for Brantford.
And that's a pretty good team they got this year.
Yeah,
they're going to be one of the better teams in the OHL, so that's good. Go play an important role on one of the best junior teams in Ontario. That's huge. Go have a long run. Maybe you make a run to the Memorial Cup. That's a good thing. I at this point in his career, I think being a first power play guy in Brantford will be more beneficial to him than being a fourth liner playing, 11 minutes a night in Rockford for most of the season.
Having seen him play a little bit, I don't think he'd be a fourth liner for terribly long in Rockford.
Right.
Especially when guys like Moore is going to start the year in Rockford. And once he moves up to Chicago, that spot would open up for him.
Yeah, I definitely think Moore is probably going to be on the Frank Nazar plan. And another thing to think about when it comes to opening night rosters, you have to remember those first two games are against the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins, two teams that are veteran laden, play a heavier style of hockey. Mm-hmm. So you probably want Landon Slaggert, Colton Dach, maybe even a Ryan Green on the team as opposed to just, a Nick Lardis. I don't think unless he just goes absolutely crazy in the preseason, I don't envision Nick Lardis playing in the NHL until after the All-Star break, if at all this season. I did notice today that it seemed, I don't know if it was a directive, but it did seem that like players were, especially the veterans, were being a little extra physical with Lardis in the one-on-one drills. Be like, okay, kid, you think you're ready, let's see it. And that's good. They push these kids, make them better players on day one, start right off the bell. I mean, it sounds very cliche, but it's true. And it was refreshing to see.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that's, you talked last week about coaching the junior out of him. And the one thing when these guys are a guy like Lardis and junior, he had so much time and so much space. And, he was scoring from the perimeter and scoring on a lot of his scoring came out power play. And now he's going to have to be out there on even strength. And, that ice gets really small, really fast, even at the AHL.
Yeah, especially in the AHL.
Yeah.
The AHL is full of grown-ass men that want to hit you into the third row of the stands.
Yeah,
It is
those
a
are guys.
physical league.
Yeah, those are guys this close to the show, and they want to.
Yeah.
They either want to get there or they want to get back there.
Right. And they're not going to let some 19-year-old hotshot from the OHL come in and show them up on night one. Not going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
And yeah, having Slaggert play on opening night probably isn't a bad idea either, because his entire highlight of last season was the goal in Sunrise.
Yeah. Yeah.
When he scored like 7 seconds in.
For sure. I mean, you need a bigger guy. You know, the Panthers, they're the best team in the league. They're not going to have Matthew Tkachuk. He's going to be out for a little while, but you know, I don't see, if they stay healthy, if they go into the playoffs healthy, no one's beaten them in a 7-game series.
No.
So
the one thing is, with the new salary cap rule for the postseason, when Tkachuk is healthy, they're probably going to have to let Evan Rodriguez go.
Oh well.
So
I mean, hey, Evan Rodriguez is a night. He's that like the perfect role player for a team like the Panthers,
right?
Where you just need Evan Rodriguez to be Evan Rodriguez,
right?
And whatever you add to the score sheet is gravy. Perfect role player for that team, but well, you know,
yeah,
they'll be
if
fine.
you're given the choice between Evan Rodriguez and Matthew Tkachuk, that's a no-brainer,
right? So you know, see how they go. But hockey, as we know, hockey is a weird and violent sport. So you know, someone else can be injured, but yeah, it is a good point to you know, the salary cap is going to roll over into the playoffs this year for the first time. So the old February 4th Mark Stone back injury might not happen this year.
Hey, you know, the Blackhawks did that with Kane.
They did. Listen, I have no problems with a team that does that. If the rules allow a loophole, exploit the shit out of it. Go win. It's not cheating if the rules allow it, but now the rules won't allow it, so it will make a bit of a difference. I think there's going to be a lot of guys, a lot of your studio guys on March 6th this year, your Elliot Friedmans and your Darren Dreggers and all your insiders. They're going to be sitting there twiddling their thumbs a little bit this trade deadline. I don't think it's going to be as crazy as years past because of that, and because of the correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there the rule that salary cannot be split between multiple teams anymore? I think that was there was some stipulation, I thought, to that as well, where those third-party teams that just come in and take salary weren't going to be allowed anymore.
That is gone. Trade a guy to a team, so they'll take 50% and then they'll trade him somewhere else, so there's a 25% roll-off.
Right. So, you know, Mikko Rantanen can't be a Blackhawk for 3 minutes again next year. The Mikko Rantanen era of Blackhawks hockey. That was a fun 45 seconds.
A true Blackhawks legend.
Hey, still better than Laurent Brossoit.
Oh, Laurent and Kim Janssen.
Yeah, they're hanging out on the island with all the lost socks from your dryer. That's where they're hanging out.
Oh man. I was gonna say, have you seen Brossoit out there? You said you thought you saw him in the Blackhawks.
I thought it wasn't him.
Okay.
There's I can't think of the guy's name. Cameron something. He was the Indy Fuel goalie last year. He had the full reddish beard going in all its glory, and from across the rink, it certainly looked like him. But I was told it wasn't him. And then Kyle Davison today announced that Brossoit had another surgery, a hip surgery this time in the off season, and is considered month to month at this point. So it's just not going to happen for him. 2 knee surgeries last year, now a hip surgery. You feel bad for the guy. Who was coming off a fantastic year in Winnipeg, backing up Connor Hellebuck. I mean, he had a 93 save percentage and a 2.0 goals against.
He was going to be a guy who's going to, like he and Mrazek were going to be a pretty nice tandem last year.
Yeah, it was going to be a 1A and a 1B. You got to remember, Laurent Brossoit was starting goaltender for the Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights during that run until he got hurt.
Yeah.
And then Aiden Hill stepped in, and then Logan Thompson stepped in, and then the beer vendor from Section 403 got a couple periods, and it didn't matter. They still won. Yeah, I feel bad for Brossoit. We joke a lot about him, but, that's just got to suck for a guy that's, these guys are wired different than you and I. They're nothing. They're the most competitive people on the planet. And to just have your body betray you at every turn has got to be super frustrating.
Yeah, and I mean, the money's good, but he wants to play hockey.
Yeah. Well, Davidson said he definitely, Brossoit definitely feels like he's going to play hockey again. Like, this isn't career threatening, but it's definitely career derailing.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works out. Hopefully, he can get to a spot where he's healthy and can play. It's just not going to be with the Blackhawks. So I'm sure he'll be LTI'd when the season starts.
Unless somebody else gets hurt badly enough to where he can step in.
Yeah. The Blackhawks are pretty set goaltending. Spencer Knight, Arvid Soderblom, Drew Comezzo is waiting for his turn. So
yeah,
looking pretty good at that position.
They're 3 deep, and oh god, I drawn a blank on the Russian guy who played so well last week.
Brezhnev. Stanislavs. Yeah. The second greatest stash in Blackhawks history.
I got number 1 right behind me.
There you go. No one will ever replace the original stash, but
no.
That dude is a tank. He was still on the ice when we go in for go into the room. We come in off of Fifth Third Arena and we walk in right behind one of the nets, and he was still on the ice when we walked in, and just a tank of a human being. I mean, he can just get in his position and he fills the entire net. It's crazy how big goalies are today. I mean, you and I grew up watching a game when, the goalies were like horse jockeys. Darren Pang is I love Panger. But he's tiny. And then you look at the goalies now and it's insane.
Tonio.
Yeah. They were all 5'8", 5'10" was considered a big goalie.
Unfortunately, Glenn Hall was just before my time.
Yeah.
By the way, something we should keep an eye out for is there's a documentary that's going to be coming out called Mr. Goalie about Glenn Hall.
Awesome. I would definitely check that out.
We're going to have to keep an eye out on that.
Yeah. Glenn Hall is one of those guys that I don't think people, especially today, appreciate his greatness. And for everything I've heard, one of the biggest gentlemen to ever play the game too. I've never heard anything disparaging said about him. Always gracious with his time and respectful. So, you got.
That's why I'm looking forward to the documentary too, is because he's always had a reputation for being a little reclusive. He's got his farm and he lives on his farm, and every so often, like every 10 years, the Hawks can beg and plead and he'll come to the United Center for a night. But
hey, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. I'd love to get to the point in my life where I don't have to deal with anybody. Except you, Frank. I'll still talk to you via the internet, but
okay.
I get it, man. If I had the means to disappear off the face of the earth and enjoy life on a secluded farm, sign me up.
Well, at this point, we owe it to our 16,666 listeners to hang in there for a little bit.
Well,
subscribe, damn it.
Yes, for every subscriber we get and every like this episode gets, buys me one more month that I don't go in recluse. Or it speeds it up by 1 month, whatever one you want. If you want to get rid of me, hit the like button. If you want me to stay, subscribe.
Yeah. Same for me. you say I've had it with this guy, just leave it in the comments. I'm good.
but make sure it's a 5-star review first. Yes.
Yeah, 5-star review. You hate me 5 stars worth. I'm good.
Absolutely. You have creative freedom as long as you click 5 stars. Before we wrap up this one, I kind of wanted to just get your thoughts on Anze Kopitar, the great Kings player, announced today that this season will be his final season. And it kind of, lots of battles with that guy during those cup runs. I think we were talking about him right before we hit the record button. I think is criminally underrated. First ballot Hall of Famer. And to me, best two-way center of this generation. Better than Jonathan Toews, better than Patrice Bergeron. I know some people might disagree with that, might not like that, but listen, look at just let the numbers speak for themselves. He's done it at a high level for longer than both of those guys.
And he won 2 Stanley Cups with teams that were nowhere near the talent level of the Blackhawks. Just the Blackhawks, they just had so much depth.
Yeah.
Because they would just come at you in waves, but they didn't have, they had Kopitar, but they didn't have like Taves had Kane and Hossa and Keith and Seabrook
and Sharp.
And Sharp. And the guys on the Kings were good, but it was one of those things where the whole was greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
And a big part of that was because of Anze Kopitar.
For sure. You could argue that the Kings had less talent than any of the Bruins teams that Patrice Bergeron took to Stanley Cup final. He made it to 3 Stanley Cup finals in his career, winning the one in 2011 as a younger player. And I'm not taking anything away from Taves or Bergeron. Those guys are Hall of Famers, 2 of the best to ever do it. But if I had to rank them, Anze Kopitar is at the top of that list. Like, if you switched Bergeron and Kopitar played his entire career on an original 6 East Coast team, and Bergeron was stuck on the West Coast for his whole career, Kopitar would have the reputation of Bergeron.
Yeah. And all the Selke trophies.
Absolutely. And to me, Anze Kopitar, especially in his younger days, was not only an amazing player, but he was also the most likely NHL player to be cast as a James Bond villain.
And of course, the other great thing was he was such a popular topic in Chicago because the Blackhawks took Jack Skilly instead of Anze Kopitar.
I was hoping you weren't going to remind us of that, but you went there. Yeah.
Look, you can't relitigate drafts. It doesn't work.
Because if you had Kopitar, you probably don't get some of the other guys because your team gets better.
Yeah. And, I always say that in, 2006, I loved Kyle Turris. And then the Blackhawks went out and got the little guy that I didn't think could make it in the NHL because he was so small. And, almost 500 goals later, the greatest American-born player of all time.
Yeah. I mean, if you draft Kopitar instead of Skilly there, do you get, do you get the 3 cups? Do you have that same team? You just can't say you plop Kopitar in and he's your second line center behind Jonathan Toews. The only scenario where that actually works is if the Penguins take Jonathan Toews second overall instead of Jordan Staal. Oof,
right.
That would have been thankfully they didn't do that. But
Kopitar, but that year, Central Scouting in 2005, Central Scouting went Johnson, Staal, Toews. So the draft went according to Central Scouting.
And we're happy it did.
We're happy it did.
Because Jonathan Toews as a career St. Louis Blues just makes me want to throw up.
Yes. It would have been a rough ride.
But it's going to be fun to see Anze Kopitar one last season. He's still playing at a high level. He had another super productive season last year. And it'll be nice to see him kind of get the farewell tour treatment. I'm sure the
Yeah.
Blackhawks will do something nice for his final game in Chicago. And I think he's a guy, even though, it's crazy to think that we're 13 and 11 years removed from those two Western Conference finals.
I know.
But that rivalry was intense. But with that rivalry, you gain respect. And I think out of anybody on those Kings teams, Kopitar was the guy Blackhawks fans respected the most.
Oh yeah.
And wished, and we wish we had him.
Yeah, and guys like Tyler Toffoli. I remember that was in the Hockey Night days, and we could not do a Kings recap without throwing a picture of Scott Farkas into our Photoshop, just because Tyler Toffoli looks like Scott Farkas.
And he's had a really nice career for himself too.
I know.
He's one of those guys that it seems that a contender trades for every year. I'll be rooting for Kopitar to have another big year. Great player, great career. Hopefully it ends on a high note. Though it's probably going to end with another first round loss to the Edmonton Oilers, because that's just what happens.
Yeah. And definitely the greatest Slovenian player of all time.
No, no debate there. Probably will be for quite some time too.
Yes.
So, all right. I think that is going to cap off another episode from the second balcony here. Once again, thank you all for the early support. It means a lot. Hopefully we have even more people checking out episode 2. Tell all your friends. Tell your dads.
Enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell your dads, because they're still younger than me.
Like, everybody likes to say this isn't your father's podcast. No, this is your father's podcast.
Yeah.
This is totally a podcast for dads and everybody else. But
dads and drunk uncles.
Exactly.
Call your drunkle.
Some people, that might be the same guy. So yeah, we appreciate the support. Look forward to more of it, and we're going to try and get these episodes cranked out once a week. I'll be off of Blackhawk duty for the next couple of days. I will be doing my yearly venture to Riot Fest this weekend. Looking forward to that. And then Monday, I'll be back on the beat, tired and sore as hell, and cursing the decision to do Riot Fest again. But you
get to see John Stamos.
I get to see Weird Al Yankovic.
I know.
I'm so excited.
The awesomeness of Weird Al will make up for the terribleness of the Beach Boys.
I'm seeing somebody else during Beach Boys. I don't care.
Yeah.
Fuck Mike Love.
Fuck Mike Love. Those are words to live by.
Yes. No, there's a much better band playing on another stage at the time of the Beach Boys, so that's what I'll be doing. But yes, I can't wait for Weird Al. I'll never forget being 6 years old and begging my dad to take me to see Weird Al on the Dare to Be Stupid tour, and he was like, "Yeah, no, that's not happening." So I finally get to do it.
I saw him around that time, and he opened for the Monkees.
It's a good show.
That was a fun show.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to Riot Fest. It's always my last hurrah before my social life disappears for the next 9 months. So we'll try and get together again at some point next weekend. Maybe Thursday nights might be our go-to night, but we'll try and knock down a consistent recording schedule. Obviously, once the games start, that's going to kind of dictate what we do. But hey, the more you guys want, we'll do our best to provide it.
Yep.
All right. We will see you guys soon, sometime next week. Frank, take care in the land of Mickey Mouse and really good hockey teams. And we'll see you guys really soon here at the second balcony.